Yo, welcome back to another edition of Everything Football 62. I'm your host, Jonathan Big Tex Johnson. How's everybody doing? Everybody's 4th was all good and all that kind of stuff like that. Ain't a big holiday guy, but just for some of those people that mess around with that, just hope your 4th and all that was good. Back to goddamn work Monday. All right? Yo, one of the things I want to talk about, because all this Hall of Fame stuff, and y'all know I've been doing the whole Hall of Fame thing here. When I get a chance to do something kind of juicy kind of comes in and stuff like that, I kind of jump onto it and whatnot. But one of the things that I wanted to speak about is about this is the whole Hall of Fame thing is and you'll see the title of it. Like, it's talking specific, and I touched on this when I first started doing my shows back there. I think 2017 when I first started really doing them. And I spoke about the whole Hall of Fame thing and stuff like that. And I specifically spoke about Cliff Branch of the Oakland Raiders. And Cliff Branch played 14 years for that of the Oakland Raiders, right? Out of 180 games, he played 180 games and started 150 games, okay? Didn't do a whole lot his first couple of years in the league because he was on the bench or whatever like that. And he really started taking flight in 73, I want to say. After he came in the league, I think in 72. Okay, he was extremely durable for somebody at his size, 5'11", 170 pounds, but he was a speedster. All right, that's one of the things with Oakland. He was a speedster. Branch would end up having 2 1,000-yard seasons, which, because back during the time of the 70s and stuff like that, and 60s in the NFL, they ran the ball. It wasn't a whole bunch of passing and stuff like that going on. A lot of that was going on really basically in the AFL, and then the merger came and then things started changing a little bit, but it was still, NFL was still about running. We have 2,000-yard receiving seasons in 74 and 76. He led the league twice in touchdown receptions, 74 and 76. 4-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first team All-Pro. Led the league twice in longest touchdowns receptions, 88 yards in 76, and in 1983, at the age of 35, you go check that out in 83, he just left a guy in the dust, 99 yards, and he's 35 years old, 5 years from 40, just put it that way, just put that significance in there for you, right? 67 touchdowns that he had in his career, played in 22 playoff games, started in 18, had 73 receptions, 1,289 yards, 5 touchdowns. And he has 3 rings. 3 rings. Yet he's not in the he's not in the Hall of Fame. Now, I did this, right? And a lot of people, and I think I've heard this, and I heard this before. People say, and I was just flicking through channels, and it was something I was reading, and it said, well, Cliff Branch really didn't have a significant catch. A significant catch? Let's talk about his career. Shit, David Tyree had a significant catch. He ain't going in the Hall of Fame. Plaxico Burress had a significant catch. He ain't going into the Hall of Fame. Butch Johnson had a significant catch. He ain't going in the Hall of Fame. I mean, come on, dude. I mean, get real with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, it doesn't make it makes absolutely no sense at all. About the significant catch. Like I said, a 99-yarder on the downside of his career. Who has 99-yard touchdowns at the age of 35? And then you playing in playoff games. You're winning. Okay? Now, you go to Lynn Swann. Never had 1,000-yard receiving. Never. I think Starworth made eventually. Starworth didn't really start doing anything until actually around 1979. After about 5 years in the league. Those guys... See, this is how you have to look at the NFL and the whole thing with the Hall of Fame voting and the way a lot of this stuff goes down. And my take on it, right? When you were in high school and you won district, right? A lot of you and a lot of those guys, who have been in district and you won district because you was a good ball club and stuff like that. A lot of those guys were ballers on that club, and a lot of those guys got stuff because they got accolades because the team won first place. It happens. Right? Or some guy you didn't think, but he'll get an honorable mention nod and stuff like that. And because, sometimes the guy who wins because they have the best team and some of the best players. In a lot of cases, that's true. Some cases not, but in more than a lot of time, it is that particular way. This is the same way how I look at certain things with the Steelers. You know what I'm saying? Really, because a lot of their first ballot Hall of Famers would be on defense. Be it that of Mel Blount, be it that of Jack Ham, Jack Lambert, Mean Joe Green. Right? first ballot Hall of Famers right off the top, right? I guess Bradshaw would eventually, he would get in there the Hall of Fame or whatever and stuff like that, because later on, that's when they changed up everything with the Steelers. Franco Harris and those guys, because they won 6 championships in 4 years. Got it, right? But it took Lynn Swann and John Stallworth a long time to even get in the Hall of Fame after those guys had retired. A long time. And my thing of it, do they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? Sure, why not? But if they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, why isn't Cliff Branch in the Hall of Fame? Why isn't Cliff Branch in the Hall of Fame? Somebody in the comments below, that's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I don't care, whatever fan that you may be, explain to me and none of the homer shit, because I'm dealing with guys who deal with football, the historical aspect of it, and know the game. Okay, not a homer. Not Steelers fans, Steelers Nation, and all that type of shit. I'm not concerned with that. I'm concerned with why is somebody who has stats like that and 3 rings, and he's not in the Hall of Fame, when somebody has stats that's not even close to what Branch has and is in the Hall of Fame and has 4 rings. And at the end of the day, you go down, like I said, we go down to that of Lynn Swann. Never had a 1,000-yard season. Led the league in catches in 75 with 11. 3-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro nod, right? And that's in 75 and whatnot. Let me got here. Had, I think, 16 playoff games, started 13, 48 catches, 907 yards, got an 18.9 because he big baller in that time, and that's fine, right? And 9 touchdowns. Swann's, but this is it. The catch, what he did to Mark Washington in Super Bowl 10, that is completely embedded into everybody's mind. And that's it. He had 4 catches, 461 yards, and a touchdown. Swann was magnificent. The whole time, I remember watching that game as a kid, as an 8-year-old. I remember the game, living in San Antonio. So it's like, you remember that, and that's played. Then when NFL film played it over and over and over again, all that stuff like that. That catch is the reason why a lot of wide receivers who played in the 70s that probably need to be in the Hall of Fame, guys like these say, because if Swann is in there from the 70s, then guys like Cliff Branch, Drew Pearson, maybe even guys like Hal Jackson, the guys like that. Why aren't those guys in the Hall of Fame? And you have to, but because, and I named Branch and Pearson because those guys won football games as well. Oakland Raiders was basically the team that they won the most games in the 70s during the time, right? Them in Dallas, and then later on Pittsburgh around in that time winning the championships and everything. Those guys was right. All these teams was winners. Now people say, well, wait a minute, you got Paul Warfield, Charger, but them guys is on the other side of their career. These guys, I'm talking about the beginning side of their career. Those guys that played in the mid-60s. That would be equivalent to like somebody like Stallworth them would play into that of the going into the 80s. They're on the downside of their career, right? So they were finishing up when these guys were starting. Okay? So a lot of that bulk of some of the things they did was in that of the 60s and the early part of the 70s and whatnot. So them guys get props. But I'm like, when you really think about 70s wide receivers, Swann, Stallworth, Drew Pearson, Cliff Branch, Alfred Jenkins, whether it was Harold Jackson, even Jackson, he played like 68, 69, I believe, but the bulk of his career was in the 70s. Okay? These are the types of guys that you're talking about, and these guys aren't in the Hall of Fame. And because of Lynn Swann's catch and his acrobatic catches in the winning of the Super Bowl, that is what kept a lot of these guys out. Remember, like I said, they just recently got in the Hall of Fame just a few years ago. So I get it to an extent, but you have to give props to these guys in some way, form, or fashion. So a guy like Cliff Branch, there's no reason why Cliff Branch should not be in the Hall of Fame. Now, people can argue back and forth about Drew Pearson simply because Pearson numbers likely and stuff like that, but at the same time, he won one. These guys won 3 and 4 Super Bowls respectively. But Pearson was one of the top receivers in the game, and his team was winning. Winning does mean a lot, and that's why I was telling you guys about with the Ken Anderson thing that I did about the difference. Ken Anderson was just as good as Staubach, just as good as Bradshaw, just as good as Burt Jones, Fran Tarkenton, all those guys. The difference of it was the fact that he did not win the big game. That's the only thing that's kept him out. And that stretch where, like I said, he went like when the Bengals were horrible, and that was starting from 77 to like from 76, 77, around a 3-year stretch when it was dreadful. And he was too. So I get that. But it's like, but this is what I'm saying. There's no reason why Cliff Branch, if Lynn Swann, Star Wars is in there, those guys should be in there. But I've heard that with no significant catch. What do you mean no significant catch? He had a significant career. His career is favorable of those guys. You know what I'm saying? Maybe because he didn't have a big catch possibly in the Super Bowl. I think he had a touchdown or two here and there or whatever. It wasn't no big major catch. But you can't hold that against him. That man needs to go in the Super Bowl. Needs to go into the Hall of Fame. Like I said, he has 3 rings. Which brings me to now what I'm seeing, I'm reading online, is that now all of a sudden you have them saying in 2020 and not the 2020 season, they are now getting ready to possibly, for the 2020 class of the Hall of Fame, have 20 players come in. Well, with 20 Hall of Fame inductees, because it's going to probably break it up between players, manager, coaches, and all them type of guys, old timers, and all that kind of stuff like that. I'm like, look, man, look here. If you didn't get in at the time that you were supposed to get in, if you haven't gotten in, if you were playing from the 30s or 40s or whatever like that, then you possibly don't even need to basically even really be in. Because if you didn't get in by that time, like I said, this is my criteria. This is why it should go. If you was a joker to play 9 to 10 years and you dominated 5 or 6 years and had very good years after that and then rolled off into the sunset, you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. If you had a real long career and you had about 4 or 5 years that was real up there and then it kind of was whatever, but you still played 15, 16 years, okay. It's obvious about guys that sit up there and just took the game by the horns and just did whatever they did or whatever with it and just, and did what they did and be first ballot Hall of Famers. I get that. Jim Browns, Eric Dickersons, and guys like that, Dick Butkus, what Gale Sayers did to the game. People, because it was one guy, even they say, well, how is Gale Sayers in there? You got to say, look at what he did. No other player was doing what he was doing. No guys, nobody ran like that. He was Barry Sanders before, what everybody say, pinball, break your ankles and all that kind of stuff. That's what he was doing. That's what made Gale Sayers so great. And that's why it was so heartbreaking not to be able to see him in his prime. Because he got taken away from us in his prime. His knee or whatever and all that stuff went out on, and they just did not have the ability to do what they can do now in the medical world to fix that situation. And it's sad what he could have done. Because he probably would have ended up being probably the best ever when it comes to that type of stuff there in itself. But that's what you got to look at from that perspective. But yeah, man, but now they're talking about putting 20 guys in and stuff like that. Now I'm just like, now you're just going to be trying to throw people in to try to play catch up? No, fix the problem. And you wouldn't have to sit up there and do that. Fix the problem. The problem is guard them guys. If those guys played a decade or more, guard them against their contemporary compare them against their contemporaries and what they did and what they didn't do, big games and all this other kind of stuff like that, and then do that and put them in. If they sit up there, you cannot sit up there have a guy have 4 and 5, played 10 years, have 5 and 6 Pro Bowl nods, 5 and 6 Pro Bowl nods, 5 and 6 All Pros, All Pro first teams and shit like that, second team, whatever, different things like that, or whatever the case may be, and have rings, and they were good at their position, and they were one of the top guys at their position, then they got to go in. Especially when they start having rings. Same thing that happened with Lester Hayes. You cannot leave Lester Hayes out. But, Lester Hayes, Defensive Player of the Year, 1-time All-Pro, about 4 or 5 times second team. I don't care about that because everybody wants to talk about that Stickum shit. You can't keep talking about that if Fred Biletnikoff is in there because he won't Stickum. So we can't do that. Can't do that. A guy like Lester Hayes, he has 2 rings. He has 2 rings. 2 rings, shut down corner. One of them guys had all that stuff. Guys stopped throwing over on his side. You can't condemn him because of that. And they say, well, it was Stickum, he wasn't dropped. Get out of here with that shit, man. That's ridiculous. Should be in the Hall of Fame. Because you got 5 and 6 Pro Bowl nods, and you at least a first team in there. Hell, I don't even think John Elway has. I think John Elway might have been the first team one time. Everything else, he had a bunch of Pro Bowls. So come on, man. You guys smash that like button, subscribe, check it out. Anybody want to deal with that, that situation what I'm talking about now, come check me out. leave a comment below, and then we can debate about it and stuff like that. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Got some things gonna be coming on around here, man. Trying to do some big things for this 100 year coming up, and be ready for the season and whatnot. So check us out. Check me out over on Twitter. Everything football 62 over there. Uncut Man 62. Check me out over there. But like I said, it's all about the YouTube thing here, man. And y'all guys check me out. You guys have a good one. And like I said all the time, numbers don't lie and get emotional. People do. And there's no GOAT or no greatest of all time as long as time's still going on. You guys have a good one.